Right, well, here we are in the assembly and painting stages of these latest peg soldiers that I'm creating. Now, what I'll try and do here is take up a faster pace and kind of blaze through these, fast forwarding through the more intricate elements of these builds, as really all you want to see is the most pertinent parts of how I put this stuff together, not the little fiddly bits. So I'll fast forward through large sections of this, but hopefully you'll get the gist of how I'm putting these together, because the way I've printed them now, 3D printed them now, is I'm trying to make them more like little assembly kits. So let's see how this progresses. Now, as you can see, I've printed just the core components of these figures so that they're really just blanks. I've included practically no surface detail, as I want to experiment with ways in which to add things like belts, straps and pouches. The idea behind this is so I can make each figure in a set easily customizable. So I start with a basic blank figure with just the essentials of a uniform, and then add things like webbing and equipment which will define the role of a particular figure, whether that be that they are infantry, cavalry or artillery, or in field dress or parade dress, or rank and file or an officer. And finally, I glue all these parts together except the arm rods which join the arms to the body. I like to keep these separate to make painting easier, and only attach these at the end when the painting's done. Now, this is one of those little jobs that I do that's self-explanatory, but it's worth actually seeing how I kind of plan out on the fly what accessories I'm actually going to put onto this particular figure. I mean, I should sketch this out on a bit of paper beforehand so I've got a plan, but I'd rather do some of this design work on the actual figures themselves so I can get a sense of scale and placement, which is more important. It's one thing to have these little sketches on paper, but they look totally different once you apply them to the little models themselves. Now, things like the facial detail that I've put on there, the eyes and the moustache and things like that's just to give me a sense of how I will progress with this character, as these will be painted over and I will have to do the sketching from beginning again. Here's where I try out my method for applying all the extra uniform details that really defines what kind of soldier this model is going to be. Now, to reiterate why I'm doing this when I could just do a lot of this detail at the 3D modelling stage, I want some flexibility to make each figure I do slightly customizable, rather than simply creating a cookie cutter production line. My idea is that I choose the basic body part out of, say, a box of parts, and then I customize it by adding all the extra embellishments by hand. I actually enjoy doing this, and it makes the process feel more like it's modelling rather than just 3D printing. I'm using a strong duct tape, which has the flexibility to conform to uneven shapes and surfaces and stick firmly in place. It's also waterproof, which will work well when it's first of all primed and then painted without detaching. Of course, the biggest advantage of this raised surface detail via using tape is that it provides me an aid to help me cope with my very shaky brush painting. Using tape like this also helps me paint more precisely and stay within the lines, so to speak. Now, I don't just use strips of tape to create the uniform details, but also some more conventional modelling techniques to make some of the equipment. Here I dip into my stock of pre-cut styrene plastic bits and bobs in order to create things like canteens and pouches. I keep a selection of what I feel will be all sorts of useful generic shapes in various sizes to use as accessories in my scratch building. Apart from a wide selection of prefabricated bits and bobs, I do find that I have to occasionally resort to creating custom parts to make specific shapes. Again, on these occasions, my go-to material is styrene plastic rods or sheets, which I then cut up and sand to shape, or combine various small parts to make slightly more ornate accessories, as here, where I'm making some satchels. Now we move on to the preparation stages prior to laying down our colour coats, and I do this by spraying the models with some grey primer. Now I have used white in the past, and that certainly does make brighter colours pop, but over time I've settled on a mid-grey tone, as I think that balances out all colours, darker and lighter, nicely. Okay, on with the scary bit for me, and that's the actual painting. And here's where I kind of like struggle a little bit with the problems I have in my hand. A big part of this project in actuality is me trying to find out simpler ways of doing things that fit around the problems that I actually have. So I've actually simplified a lot of the work that I do. I don't do elaborate painting, freestyle painting anymore with high amounts of detail and fine detail. I've tried to make everything a lot less complex. That's in the modelling and in the painting. Yes, that kind of means that my finished models aren't quite up to the standards that I used to enjoy when I had the full dexterity of my hands pre-stroke. But I found, for a strange reason, that I actually enjoy the fact that I'm still able to do this hobby, even though it might not be on the same level that I used to be able to achieve. And I don't think the results are that bad. You're always self-critical about these things, but I'm just glad that I'm able to carry on making toy soldiers. Now, continuing on the theme of how I've approached these models, taking into consideration the issues that I have, the kind of process that I'm using is also, I think, a useful process for anyone that's approaching this kind of figure model, and that's painting in layers, starting at the lowest level layer, in this particular case the skin, and working up layer by layer on top of that. So the skin, then the clothing, then the accessories, etc. Now the good thing about doing that from my point of view, because my painting's so shoddy these days, as I'm painting one layer on top of the other, I'm also in a way self-correcting any of the little mistakes that I make. One of the biggest mistakes I make is that I paint outside the line accidentally, because of my wobbles. So that means the next layer I paint on top of that, I can correct any of the bits where I've gone awry. I just paint over them again, and I keep repeating this process, painting one layer on top of another, correcting as I go along. So by the time I get to the top layer, hopefully I'll have covered up a lot of my mistakes. Now, what I'm going to do to speed things along a bit here is once again kind of blaze through the various layers that I'm painting here, just giving you a little snapshot along the way of each particular process that I'm doing, but it's pretty self-explanatory. As I say, I just work up the layers until I've completed the painting of the whole figure. So as you can see here, we're just quickly glancing at each of these stages and working towards covering the complete model before working into a little bit more detail. Now, I've mentioned how I've simplified a lot of my work here to fit around some of the issues I've got. But it should be also noted, and fairly obvious I think, that these figures are caricatures. So in effect, they're pretty simple anyway. I've used a lot of shortcuts to illustrate particular parts of the uniform, and I've knocked out a lot of the finer detail. Now I'm continually trying to find out new ways of making life easier for myself and trying out new things and new ways to do effects that are simple. Now, one of the little problems that I've had is doing that fine detail, including daft little things like painting on little buttons, for example. So here what I tried out was to actually add some little press studs in place of the painted on buttons that I used to do. What I found was these little spheres. Now I'm not quite sure what they actually are. There's some sort of little fancy decorations for doing jewellery, I think. Tiny little balls, metal balls. So I thought, if I glue these on, they'll make a nice substitute for the buttons that I used to have to laboriously paint on. Well, we're starting to get into the real nitty-gritty now, and we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm now onto the facial features of the models themselves, and as you can see that I actually sketched these on with a pencil first, which is probably as well because this is take 3 or 4, I think it was, where I had to erase the mistakes I made with my wobbly hands, unfortunately. But I eventually managed to control my crazy hand and do some line drawing on the faces. Again, these are very simple features and little more than caricatures, really. I think it's one of those funny ironies that the closer and closer I get to finishing these models, the harder and harder the work seems to get. I start off these models with large areas of painting, and it slowly gets focused down to where I get to the point I have to really work into the details, like it or not. And as I've said many times through this video, this is what's really hard for me in particular. And it's, as I say, a great irony that it's at the very end that I really start slowing down when I can just see that the model is so close to being finished. It's a wee bit of an irony, really, that one of the last jobs, or at least one of the jobs that I feel is one of the last ones, is me putting the little pupils in the eyes. Because that dot, to me, always seems like the full stop that's at the end of this model making process. As you can see, I just dot these in using an acrylic pen here. It feels like I'm punctuating the end of this model making process, although in reality I've still got a couple of bits to do. But this feels like all the hard work has been done now, and really we're on the home straight. Well, we're coming to the last painting job, really, and that is the arms. Not only the arms, but whatever the soldier happens to be carrying, which of course is a rifle in this case. Now, the way I've designed these figures, because they're display items, I like to have them in a parade pose. So that means I normally have the rifles either in order arms, that's where they're held in the hand but resting on the floor, or in shoulder arms, that's where the rifle, of course, is resting across their shoulder. I have in the past created custom poses where the figure is holding other items and accessories. Sometimes this is easy to arrange, but for the toy soldier the firing position is somewhat difficult to achieve because the model stands face forward with his arms rigidly attached to either side of his figure. Holding single-handed weapons in one hand is easy enough, but otherwise my soldiers are a little limited in their current form to holding muskets and rifles in the port position. As I say, this isn't such a problem as I like my toy soldiers posed in a parade stance. But at some point in the future, I will have to put my mind into designing a figure specifically to allow a firing pose. In the meantime, everyone seems happy with the figures in my display poses. And for wargaming, this isn't such an issue. One just has to imagine that these little soldiers could present and bear arms if they wanted to. Well, finally, we come to the last piece of assembly, the fitting of the arms into my model's shoulder sockets. Now, one of the benefits of the way in which I've designed this method of shoulder joint is that it can swivel the arms back and forth into the position that I want. Obviously, this limb and rod design does look a little goofy, but the intent is for this model to resemble a traditional wooden toy soldier, so I think it kind of looks right. I base my designs on German Christmas nutcracker soldiers, so they are supposed to have that wooden toy look about them. The other good thing about keeping the arms separate from the bodies until the final assembly is that it makes it easier to fit the arms in place when you have added accessories to the soldiers' bodies. Things like pouches, backpacks, bayonet frogs and holsters all add extra bulk to the figure, so having some leeway to open up the space between the figure and the arms via the shoulder rods is very handy. Well, we're at the end of my little toy soldier walkthrough, and I really hope you found this interesting. As you've seen, I'm not doing anything really all that clever, and it's all quite straightforward and easy to do. If it encourages anyone else to have a go at peg soldiers, that would be great. Just remember the most important thing. It's all just a bit of fun, and hopefully it's something that will make someone smile. I'm already working on my next two little characters, and I hope to be trying out a few new tricks to help me make them more interesting. So keep watching out for new videos on my channel. Thanks for watching, and as usual, a very big thank you to the NHS, without whom I wouldn't even be able to do this simplified version of my hobby. Look after yourselves, guys, and bye for now.